Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are jumping right into a brand new explainer, and I am super excited about this one. We're going to unpack Andrew Matthews' massive international bestseller, Follow Your Heart. Now, right off the bat, if you're looking for mystical jargon or, complex head-in-the-clouds theories, you're in the wrong place. This book is an incredibly down-to-earth, deeply practical guide to finding actual purpose in your life and work. It's built on just a few core universal truths, and we're going to break the whole thing down for you right here.
So let me ask you something. Why is it that we always seem to attract the exact same disasters? You know what I mean? The same type of toxic boss, the exact same relationship drama, the same weird financial hiccups. Well, Matthews suggests a pretty massive perspective shift here. We actually have to reframe life's frustrations. They aren't unfair punishments. Think of them more like a classroom. We are literally here to be educated. And life is just going to keep handing us the exact same test over and over until we finally learn the specific lesson we need to move forward.
I mean, if we postpone our lessons, like, say, constantly avoiding a difficult conversation or just completely ignoring a bad habit, we just keep ourselves trapped. It's like being a skeleton still sitting at a school desk waiting for a promotion or a magical change that is absolutely never going to come. Real growth actually requires breaking new ground, because if you don't conquer the lesson, you never get to leave the classroom. It's that simple.
Now, in the book, Matthews outlines 10 concepts. But to keep things snappy for our time together today, I've distilled them down into the top 4 essential rules of the game. First up, exactly what we just talked about. We are here to learn lessons, and the world is our teacher. Second, the universe actually has no favorites. It operates on blind laws that apply to everyone equally. Third, and this is the title of the book, follow your heart. And fourth, our ultimate mission here isn't to go out and change the world, but to change ourselves. So keep these 4 rules in the back of your mind as we map out the rest of this journey.
Okay, let's get into part 1, the framework, the mechanics of the universe.
Right, so before we can truly talk about following our hearts, we kind of have to understand the fundamental mechanics of how this universe operates, starting with the laws of nature. Look, today we live in what I like to call the instant noodle era. We expect totally instant gratification. We want the fancy promotion way before we put in the hard work, right? We just buy now on credit and figure out how to pay later. But nature doesn't work like that. Nature operates on the law of the seed. If you want beans, you have to actually dig the soil, plant the seed, and wait. Effort plus patience equals results. You literally cannot reverse that process, no matter how much you might want to.
The absolute most crucial point here is this. You plant today, and you harvest later. Matthews uses this fantastic little anecdote about a dishwasher named Fred. Fred says, well, if I had a decent job, then I would really work hard, but I just wash dishes, so to heck with it. But Fred has it totally backwards. The law of the seed dictates that if you become the absolute best dishwasher in town first, someone's going to notice and then you get promoted. The effort must, without exception, precede the harvest. Think about it like pulling on a palm tree. It's pretty obvious what's about to hit you on the head, right? A coconut. That brings us to cause and effect. Matthews challenges us to just stop worrying about whether the universe is being fair to our neighbors. Instead, just watch this law at work in your own life. If we sit down and are truly, brutally honest with ourselves, we can usually trace almost every single one of our successes and our disappointments right back to our own actions.
And let's see how this builds perfectly into our next principle. As you get better, the game gets bigger. Life is essentially like leveling up from grade 1 to grade 2. Matthews talks about a guy named Frank. Frank has saved exactly 87 cents in 20 years, but he constantly complains, man, if I had $1 million, I'd know how to take care of it. But Frank's current mission isn't managing $1 million. His mission is figuring out how to save his first $10. You have to beat the small game before the universe is ever going to let you play in the big leagues. Moving right along to part 2, the core philosophy, doing what you love. Now that we've got the rules firmly established, let's pivot to the book's core philosophy. It is entirely possible to get paid to do what you love. But first, we really need to dismantle a super popular myth. Doing what you love is not pulling a paycheck while lying on a tropical beach sipping a piña colada. Okay? That's a vacation. That is not a purpose. Doing what you love means finding a deep passion and pouring all your energy and creativity into making it work. It requires taking major risks. In fact, doing what you love isn't a recipe for an easy life at all. It's a recipe for an interesting life. Honestly, it usually means you're going to end up taking on significantly more responsibilities and way more problems.
But you know what?
The uncertainty is actually half the fun. When there is zero struggle in your life, there's just this massive void. Matthews points out that this is exactly why people who have absolutely everything handed to them on a silver platter often end up feeling utterly lost or even depressed. We are wired for a challenge. We literally need the struggle to feel fulfilled.
Which brings us to part 3, the proof, the hustle behind the dream. Sure, it's easy to just sit here and talk about theories, right? But let's look at the proof, because these are realities Andrew Matthews actually lived. Look at the sheer hustle required to build a million-seller organically. For a year and a half, publishers just completely rejected him. In fact, one publisher literally told him he should go see a psychiatrist, yeah, a psychiatrist, instead of writing books. So what did he do? He didn't quit. He flew to Singapore, set up an easel and a microphone right in the middle of bookstores, and pitched directly to the shoppers. He toured Australia doing promos during massive airline strikes, and my absolute favorite part, when he finally launched the book in America, he hosted this massive Manhattan media party on June 20th, 1990. Guess who else happened to fly into New York on that exact same day? Nelson Mandela. So needless to say, not a single media person showed up to Matthews' party. He literally had a cocktail party with himself and 11 waiters.
And I really want this number to sink in, 23. That is the number of times Andrew Matthews lost his baggage while flying 1,000,000 miles and doing 1,000 interviews just to promote his work. This brilliantly illustrates that chasing your dream isn't always glamorous. A lot of the time, it is just sheer, unadulterated effort.
So the lesson here, in a nutshell, is so simple but so powerful. God is never going to come down from a cloud and say, you now have permission to be successful. Nobody is born with a special hall pass to succeed. You just don't wait for permission. You start right wherever you are with whatever you have, and you just do everything you possibly can.
And finally, part 4, the synthesis. Change yourself first.
As we start to wrap up this explainer, the big question is, how do we fit into the larger picture of the universe? Well, it comes down to synthesis. Matthews introduces this concept of synthesis. It's basically defined as looking at things as a whole, rather than constantly analyzing or breaking them down into tiny pieces. When we overanalyze our friends or our jobs or the universe itself, we essentially separate ourselves from them. We lose the magic. But when we step back and look at the whole picture, when we empathize, we actually connect. Which leads us straight to his ultimate rule. We spend so much energy looking out at the cracked globe of the world, pointing out all its flaws and trying to fix everybody else. But here is the truth. Working on yourself works. Trying to change the world doesn't. Your mission in life is not to fix the cracked globe. Your mission is to take absolute 100% responsibility for your own happiness, your own actions, and your own mind.
I want to leave you with this final, genuinely provocative thought, which is inspired by a Marianne Williamson quote from the book. Fast forward to the very end. If you were lying on your deathbed, surrounded by your loved ones, would you really look back and wish, man, I really wish I had made an extra 20 grand? Or would you wish you had loved more, lived fully, and actually followed your heart? Take a minute to evaluate your priorities today, guys, because the classroom of life is in session right now. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.